This is a primetime news bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV. The bulletin is also available across Europe on London-based ABN television. In this edition, government sharply criticizes public sector workers on strike over their Tier 2 pension contributions, describing their action as unconscionable. The flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party has in turn also slammed government for its handling of the matter. The founder and general overseer of the Christian Action Faith Ministries International is meanwhile warning Ghana risks an uprising unless growing disenchantment among the youth about the political elite is not managed. Massive hold-up of vehicles at Paga after days of Burkina Faso border closure over civil unrest there. And victims of domestic violence encouraged to report cases and refrain from settlement by family elders. We also have business, sports, showbiz, and international news coming up in the next 60 minutes. Stay tuned.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
The very first story, government has sharply criticized striking public sector workers over their refusal to return to work despite a court order directing them to call off their action over their Tier 2 pension contributions. At a news conference on the matter on Monday, Communications Minister Dr. Edward Omane-Boamah described as unconscionable that Ghanaians are being deprived vital public services on account of the current strike. He explained the news conference was also to address what he called distortions and deliberate falsehood in the debate over the management of pension funds.
The intention of government in its composition of the membership of the Pensions Committee was to ensure that all employees and their various unions are well represented through the heads of these public services. The committee, in consultation with MPRA, shortlisted 5 trustee companies and invited them to submit proposals for consideration. The 5 shortlisted trustee companies are as follows: Enterprise Trustees Limited, Provident Life Trust Company, Universal Pensions Master Trust Limited, Glyco Pensions Trustee Company Limited, and Pensions Alliance Trust Limited. All 5 trustee companies were then given the opportunity to make presentations to the committee, after which Pensions Alliance Trust Limited, hereinafter I'm going to refer it to as the selected trustee, was recommended for appointment. The selected trustee then went ahead to register 3 master trust schemes. The schemes were set up such that the employees were represented on the board of trustees of each scheme through their association representatives or their management, whichever is preferable. Provision was made for the appointment of 4 fund managers per scheme, making a total of 12 fund managers. Some of the fund managers proposed by the selected trustees to government, we are informed, include Databank, IC Securities, EDC Management Service, First Bank Financial Services, Fidelity Securities, Stanbic Management Services, SEM Capital. The schemes also made provision for the appointment of a custodian for each master trust scheme, making a total of 3 custodians. Some groups, namely the GES, Ghana Health Service, GJS, and CLOSAC, formed and registered their own schemes. This stalled efforts by the selected trustee to set in motion the public sector schemes. In early 2013, ladies and gentlemen, Controller and Accountant General's Department started transmitting employee data to establish employee database on the selected trustees platform for all employees on Government of Ghana payroll. This exercise has since been completed.
Now, flag bearer of the new patriotic party, Addo Dankwa Agyei, has also slammed government for what he describes as a poor handling of the pension fund agitation by public workers. He said his party is extremely worried about the opaque manner in which the issues are being handled and the distress workers are being put through. He made this known when executives of the National Democratic Party called on him at his Nima residence here in Accra.
This matter of the pensions. It's something very, very, very worrying for all of us, especially for us in the party, because we were responsible for the legislation that is now in place, governing the whole pension structure. And to see the issues that have developed, the opaque manner in which these matters are being dealt with, workers very, very concerned about their entitlement and their dues. I think that these are and other issues are matters that all of us should be able to work together to make sure that we get a good deal for the people of our country. So your presence here is encouraging for me. I'm grateful for it. And what it portends for 2016 is equally encouraging. I think all of us who see that a much more proactive, a much more enhanced Ghana as possible, we should work together.
The National Democratic Party, meanwhile, has congratulated Nana Akufo-Addo on his selection as flag bearer of the new patriotic party for the 2016 presidential election. Party chairman Dr. Josiah Aye, who led a delegation to the residence of the NPP flag bearer, says the NDP is confident that Nana Akufo-Addo is capable of effectively managing the affairs of the country to the benefit of all Ghanaians. Now, despite the apparent endorsement, however, the NDP chairman says former First Lady and wife of NDC founder Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings also intends to contest the 2016 election.
The endorsement by the NDP chairman comes in the wake of calls by many for a change in the country's leadership given the current challenges the country is faced with. According to Josiah Aye, a strong and effective leadership capable of improving the living conditions of Ghanaians is what the country needs, adding the NDP was confident that Nana Addo was the right person for the job.
Now, I think that it's clear to everybody that Ghana is at a critical stage. We are not saying that we are on the edge, but I think that our people have always been resilient, and we've got to show that resilience and muster that courage and energy to ensure that this time there is indeed a change. And we believe that we can have the sort of leadership that we need for that change. I wouldn't say that, well, this country is only being governed by the West men, but there's such a word as kakistocracy. And we are in danger of really falling into the pit of kakistocracy. And I think that, we are too level-headed, too broad-minded, too open-minded to allow these things to go on. And I believe that Ghanaians have learned. I think that what we can do is to identify the best for Ghana and work with the best for Ghana to ensure that there is change come election 2016.
Nana Addo Dankwa Agyei, in responding to the call, thanked the NDP for the support and urged political parties in the country to collaborate and cooperate in building the country and improving its fortunes.
All of us should be able to work together to make sure that we get a good deal for the people of our country. So your presence here is encouraging for me. I'm grateful for it. And what it portends for 2016 is equally encouraging. I think all of us who see that a much more proactive, a much more enhanced Ghana as possible, we should work together. To make it happen. Remember, we are not asking people to leave their parties to join the NPP, but we can definitely collaborate and cooperate to bring about the change in our country. And I think that should be the thing first and foremost in the minds of all of us.
The NDP, however, says their leader, Nana Akufo-Addo Rawlings, will run for presidency on the party's ticket come 2016.
That you categorically, emphatically, and I've stressed to you that Nana Akufo-Addo would be running for the presidency of this country. Our coming here to see some other political player or a political party does not mean that we wound up shop. We are still in business. We want to work with anybody. We've tried to approach others. Let me say in particular that we have tried to approach the NDC, but our outstretched hands have never been reciprocated. There's nothing that we can do about it. Once I got to know that we wanted to approach and say, congratulations, he kept an open house. And that's the sort of thing that we want to see in Ghana's politics. We don't want to see rancor, bitterness, hatred, and the demonization of people and entities. No, that's not good for us.
According to credible information reaching Joy News, Nana Addo Dankwa Agyei will be announcing the composition of his campaign team for the 2016 general elections by the close of week, with many pundits taking Member of Parliament for Okre constituency, Dan Botwe, as the leader of the team, hoping to bring the opposition NPP to power come 2016. For Joy News, Kwabna Chenchen Boating.
In other news, founder of the Christian Action Faith Ministries International, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, has warned Ghana risks an uprising if the youth completely lose faith in the political elite. Referring to the unrest in Burkina Faso and elsewhere around the world, he cautioned the country may soon get to that point where, unlike has happened typically with the involvement of the military, the country's youth this time will lead a revolt. Archbishop Duncan Williams has been sharing his perspectives on leadership, corruption, the economy, as well as marriage and divorce on a special edition of Joy FM Super Morning Show broadcast from the church premises.
Flanked by some members of the church's management, including Ghana's Trade and Industry Minister, Dr. Eko Spiogabra, Archbishop Duncan Williams intimated leadership is about intelligence and the ability to perform, adding it is also about entrusting the nation's resources to experienced individuals who can manage them efficiently for the benefit of all.
People should not be appointed because they favor a particular political party or they have connection to somebody in authority. You shouldn't lobby to give people position. Army will not be an issue. It will be the youth that will rise up and take to the street one day. And they will be willing, like what is happening in Hong Kong. And it will bring everything to a standstill. I'm moving from one university to another, all the secondary schools, like I used to do again, to let the youth know that you have the right to react, to demonstrate and everything. But look at places like Egypt and places like Tunisia and other places, what became of the demonstration. And Libya, it has brought chaos and everything. So let's find a better way to do about it. Let everybody vote.
The Archbishop bemoaned the lack of respect for the elderly in society. According to him, Ghana's freedom of speech has gradually metamorphosed into freedom of insult, where young people have no qualms about verbally abusing spiritual leaders and persons who have achieved so much for the country. As efforts are being made to contain the deadly Ebola virus that is ravaging some West African countries and trickling to other faraway countries, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams believes Ebola is a demonic force that has come to cause suffering among people. To him, prayers are needed to fight the deadly disease.
I know there are forces out there that really want to cripple this nation, not just the economy. I mean, if you look at this Ebola virus in Sierra Leone, Guinea, and a place like Liberia, this is evil, that is killing an entire nation. And that is where prayer is relevant. Jesus said, lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. So evil is real. And that's why spirituality in nation building is very important. You can't ignore that.
One of the most influential charismatic leaders in Africa and beyond, the Archbishop has come in for heavy criticism on his pronouncement on impending disasters. He, however, maintains they are revelations from God, and he has no choice but to share as a caution to avert such disasters. He defended his recent comments on marriage.
I was just telling women that, listen, for those of you who are married, you are blessed, and be grateful and be thankful. And it is more of a privilege to be married and not an entitlement. So if you are married, maintain it, have a good attitude, and don't be like a Vashti who misbehaved, because there are 7 in line for what you have, and the Bible says hold fast to what you have. So I was coming from that perspective, and I also did admonish the men and said to them that they must also appreciate and value what they have.
Churches, he says, are playing crucial roles in building the nation by supporting education and health, providing scholarships to needy students, and caring for orphans.
In other news, Ghana's parliament will resume sitting on Tuesday for the last meeting for the year 2014. The Minister of Finance said Tekpe is expected to appear before the House to present government budget for the year 2015. The legislators will from Tuesday approve crucial loans for infrastructure development. The MPs will also approve the reports of certain committees, including the Public Accounts Committee, which has been sitting during the recess. We're taking a break. There's more news coming up thereafter. Don't go. There was a long queue of cargo vehicles Monday morning at the Ghana-Burkina Faso border at Paga in the Upper East region, despite the opening of the Burkinabe side of the border having been shut for a few days. The situation created huge vehicular traffic at the border town and frustration among drivers of vehicles with goods bound for Burkina Faso from Ghana. Upper East correspondent Addo Dankwa reports.
Burkina Faso closed all her borders to Ghana early last Saturday, following the recent political disturbances in that country. The closure of the borders meant that no travelers from Ghana could go into Burkina Faso and vice versa. However, Burkina Bay nationals who wanted to go into their country Monday morning, premises of the Ghana Revenue Authority at the Paga border, including 2 large parking spaces, were flooded with a backlog of Ghana-Burkina Faso-bound commercial vehicles waiting for the Burkina Bay authorities to open their borders. Though the borders were eventually opened before 9 a.m., the traffic situation had not changed by midday, causing frustration among drivers, some of whom spoke to Joy News.
Me driver, me fitama, and person call me driver who I'm a driver now.
How did the closure of the border affect your work? How were you mind saying?
Okay,
border now.
I'm not to see because and I say maybe you should call Ghana to Accra. It's a minica. I feel the cars in the Baba drivers in the airplane, and I take some small until I hear nothing. Cars in the back, that's in the Slam door border. The better jam. I think I must say, Quan with the Mamma was when I put now, was not open car.
Your friend Osei Richmond. Yeah, that's now a free fiat and a be a bodano into Yetiana Coso, Uncle Pardon, and your son of Beatis won't be a penfubus yet, my mind. Yes, simple for me, no one can be an animal because send a bear. Yet, your company, Tinasa, a Yakakama, and Indian Mumakano. We have been the Bontin, Dallas Snack, and I said, 7 penny for and come off in my Cosmana.
We even some of us we didn't even talk. We don't have money for food. We don't have any place to sleep. We are sleeping here. And look at us at now. Look at the gutters. We didn't know what we are doing. After for the sanitary, you see how dirty it is. We don't know what is going on. We can even sick. It can even give us a sickness. So we are pleading for our managers.
What are you crossing to Burkina Faso to do?
We are going to for transit.
You have goods in your vehicle?
We have goods in our cars.
What goods do you have?
Container.
What are in the containers?
Mines. We are going to mines. So right now we don't know what we are doing.
Chief Revenue Officer of the Ghana Revenue Authority at the Ghana-Burkina Faso border at Paga, David Atta, explained the cause of the situation.
The situation as at yesterday was quite tight because the border had been closed on Saturday morning following the happenings in Burkina Faso. Unfortunately, this morning we were informed by the officials on the other side that they opened their border, much to our relief, because there were so many vehicles cleared from the port which got stuck here. So this moment, the vehicles are moving.
Victims of domestic violence have been encouraged to resist the temptation to settle cases for fear of being stigmatized. The coordinating director of the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit of the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Laurentia Akoli, urged victims to opt for legal remedies as the traditional ways of resolving such cases allows the perpetrators to get off lightly. Some of the visuals, you may find some of the visuals quite disturbing.
Established in 1998, the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit of the Ghana Police Service has among its core mandates to safeguard the vulnerable, especially women and children. Since its inception, however, the unit has had little support from government, rendering it inefficient in dealing with domestic crimes such as petty thefts, causing harm, rape, defilement, incest, child neglect, and other forms of sexual harassment. Speaking at the first ever National Policy Forum to review the performance of the unit, the coordinating director of DOVSU said such crimes cannot be settled at home.
Most of these cases go behind DOVSU personnel, because it is the families who are involved, looking at their reputation and where they are coming from, their family names. They try as much as possible to do it behind the scene without DOVSU knowing. We will advocate that parents, or for that matter families, who get people defiled should not, and I repeat, should not hide these issues, because the life and the future of the victims is at stake. And we need to see to the fact that they are treated well so that they can have a dignified future.
Superintendent Lawrence Shakwali also lamented how the slow pace in adjudicating domestic violence cases affects justice delivery.
The court system delays. We heard there are only 2 DV courts, one in Accra, one in Kumasi. And if you don't have enough courts even to prosecute minor cases, right, we'll still hold on. It will be in line. Everybody is waiting for the 10. But where we sort of disseminate the court, we have a DV court at, let's say, circuit court, at this district court, issues can be dealt with easily, and then there will not be any choke in the system.
The ACT Foundation, organizers of the forum, have over the years been part of the advocacy groups that championed the institutionalization of the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit. In an interview, the program manager of the foundation, Sarah Akono, talked about how the unit could be strengthened to execute its mandate.
As much as we would say that such officials should be punished in a way, would also encourage the DOVSU leadership to train and retrain officers. Because
with 106 officers spread across the country, DOVSU has, however, chalked some successes by holding perpetrators of domestic violence accountable and also creating an enabling environment for victims to report cases, something the unit considers a success story. Speakers at the forum, however, called on government to do more by appointing leaders who are dedicated to the cause of the unit, and also called for an interagency approach in the police service, among other things. Latif Idris's report for Joy News.
November 2 has been declared an international day to end impunity for crimes against journalists. UNESCO and the Media Foundation for West Africa announced at a public forum Monday that it was chosen in remembrance of 2 French radio journalists who were killed in northern Mali in November last year.
The forum, which was dubbed the State of Journalist Safety in Ghana, was attended by Deputy Minister for Culture, Tourism and Creative Arts, Jifagu Mashi, and other high-profile personalities, including the director at the UNESCO Ghana office, Tiso dos Santos, and Kwesi Jana-Pinting of the National Media Commission. In his presentation on the state of journalist safety in Ghana, Suleiman Barima highlighted some reasons for the decline in standards among practitioners.
Commercialization of the media, in other words, targeting advertising revenue as the basis to drive programming, is something that is of great concern. I think media outlets and organizations must begin to appreciate the need to prioritize public interest over commercial interest, and that is a big area of concern. Beyond that, I think that the kind of training that journalists also receive from our training institutions is not up to the standard that one would appreciate. And then poor remuneration for journalists is also a big cause.
Research, meanwhile, named the police, state officials and political parties as some of the notorious perpetrators of violence against media practitioners. Deputy Minister for Culture and Tourism, Jifagu Mashi, highlighted the need for media houses and journalists to indulge in the right practices to promote public trust.
To be a perception about the work of journalists and in the country. And so perhaps journalists need to assess this information that Suleiman has just shared with us, perhaps in-house, see whether any of the areas that have been discussed affects them and in which way it affects them. Is it negative? Is it positive? And then as a media house or as a press house, you tailor your activities, to correct it. Or if you're doing the right thing, perhaps it should spur you on to do even better.
She urged journalists to use decent language in their reportage. Lord Kote's report for Joy News.
We're taking a break. Up next is business news.
Hello, my name is Matilda Nyakwa Kweku. I'm here to bring you the latest in business. Third World Network, with support from the Open Society Initiative for West Africa, is calling on ECOWAS member states to implement the provisions contained in the African Mining Vision to enable African governments derive more economic benefits from its natural resources. Ghana and other African member states adopted the African Mining Vision in February 2009 to safeguard the interests of the continent's natural resources from exploitation, particularly from expatriates.
Paul, the principal element of the African Mining Vision is that mineral development should be part of an agenda of structural transformation, including particularly how minerals can be part of industrialization in Africa. So that is not simply a source of revenue.
Coordinator of the Third World Network Africa, Dr. Yao Graham, also indicated it was about time government took steps to legalize the operations of small-scale miners.
Illegal small-scale mining, as we see it in Ghana, is very destructive. It threatens the health of the people. It's polluting the environment. But if we think about it as a livelihood response by people in an economy which is not creating jobs and opportunities, there's a livelihood response which, in a way, when you essentialize it, is not very different from the kids who are selling in the streets, from the women who are being beaten on the pavement by AMA and all the municipal authorities. So the response to the Galamsey problem, there are short-term issues about foreigners who are here illegally to be flushed out. There are medium-term problems about how to improve people's knowledge about the environmental impacts. And there's a long-term challenge of policy frameworks that create opportunities in the economy so that fewer people have the incentive to do those dangerous and dirty jobs, which also are not good for all of us.
A director at the Ministry of Local Government and Natural Resources, Ben Ayi, admitted that even though the mining industry contributed only 6% to the country's gross domestic product, there was a lot government needed to do to make the industry still vibrant to contribute more.
We are looking at the other minerals which can more easily be integrated. You can talk about bauxite. I'm sure you've heard a lot about the bauxite industry. We mine bauxite and ship it, and then we're importing alumina. We don't refine the bauxite into alumina. We import alumina to smelt at Valco. So that's one thing government has been trying to promote all the time, to ensure that we can refine our bauxite into alumina. So the deposits at Kibi, Ninahin particularly, government has said that unless we find an investor who will refine that bauxite into alumina, it will not be mined.
The two-day workshop in Accra, we saw representatives from several civil society organizations in West Africa participating, resolved to educate the public on the provisions contained in African Mining Vision and also make African governments commit to the implementation of the statutes contained in the documents.
Tigo Ghana has partnered with Reach for Change, a non-profit organization, to launch Digital Change Makers, a new social entrepreneurship program which aims at identifying and empowering young Ghanaians with innovative digital solutions to step forward and help solve some of Ghana's most pressing needs.
Digital Change Makers will each receive a funding grant of $20,000 and the needed expert guidance and support to bring their ideas to life. The head of corporate affairs at Tigo explains they will also benefit from a network of existing social entrepreneurs who will guide them on running social change projects.
We're a digital lifestyle brand. What we mean by digital lifestyle brand is
we believe in digital technology. To anything that our technology empowers people to do in one way or the other is the sort of dream that we have.
Deputy Minister of Communications Addo Sapong is hopeful the initiative will help bridge the technology gap between the rural youth and their counterparts in the urban areas.
Is resourcing our young entrepreneurs with sharp ideas, with some resources to be able to do what they want to do. Number two is helping to solve problems that we have in society generally. Number three, we are meeting a need with the initiative of Tigo.
Tigo, since its establishment in 1991, has continued to introduce innovations and packages to make life easier and more convenient for its subscribers.
In some international news, more than 13 years after the original towers were destroyed in the 9/11 attacks, New York's World Trade Center has reopened for business. Employees at publishing giant Condé Nast are starting to move into the 104-story World Trade Center. The $3.8 billion skyscraper took 8 years to build and is now the tallest building in the U.S. It is 60% leased, and the government's General Services Administration has signed up for 275,000 square feet. The 1,776 feet tall skyscraper is at the center of the site, which includes a memorial in the footprints of the old towers and a museum. Opened this year, an observation deck at the top of the building will eventually be opened to the public. HSBC has set aside $378 million to cover potential costs from investigations into currency trading. HSBC is among several banks being investigated over the alleged rigging of currency markets. The bank also set aside $589 million for potential further PPI insurance mis-selling claims. HSBC boss Stuart Gulliver said despite the rise in regulatory expectations, he was confident their business model remains sustainable. HSBC disclosed the figures as it reported a rise in pre-tax profits for the third quarter to $4.6 billion from $4.5 billion a year ago. And that ends business. Up next is sports.
Right now, time to do some sports, and we can begin with news in the continent or on the continent. And the Confederation of African Football have announced they would not postpone next year's AFCON and have given Morocco till Saturday to decide if they will be still willing to stage the tournament. In a statement posted on the official website on Monday, CAF Executive Committee maintained the 2015 AFCON will go ahead between January 17 and February 8. The Confederation of African Football has reiterated it would not move the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations from January and has given Morocco until Saturday to decide if it will host as scheduled. Morocco wants a postponement because of fears over the Ebola outbreak. CAF has asked Morocco to clarify their position by 8th November, a deadline also given to any country who may want to step in as replacement hosts. The governing body says a final decision will be made on 11 November. After a meeting in Rabat on Monday, CAF tweeted that it was unanimous on keeping the competition on dates, namely from January 17 to February 18, 2015, adding that Morocco has been asked to clarify its final position not later than 8th November. CAF also said it will convene again on 11 November in Cairo, Egypt, to take necessary decisions on the finals. The meeting in Rabat was fixed last month when Morocco asked CAF to postpone the tournament after being advised by its own health ministry that hosting the 16-team tournament posed the risk of the spread of the deadly virus, which has killed about 5,000 people, mostly in Africa. CAF immediately rejected the notion, insisting the 3-week tournaments go ahead as scheduled. Anticipating the possibility Morocco's government will stand firm, CAF have since asked 7 countries if they might be able to step in as emergency hosts at short notice. Since the first edition in 1957, no Africa Cup of Nations has ever been postponed or deferred.
There have been no cases of Ebola infection in Morocco, and only one country where the deadly virus has taken hold has any chance of qualifying for the finals. Ironically, Guinea was granted permission by Moroccan authorities to use Casablanca to host two of the Nations Cup qualifiers in September and last month, after CAF banned them from hosting games at home.
Let's get on to the domestic scene. A newly appointed Hartlepool managing director Gerard Nee Ankra has told Joy Sports they are not happy with the delay at the start of next season's Ghana Premier League. Now, the league will further delay after a human rights court adjourned the Ken Faisal and Ghana Football Association case in November 12. Opoku, we're talking about Gerard Nee Ankra. He says that sustaining the players without playing the league has become very, very difficult.
All these were options or suggestions that came up so the league could get started. But I think from our point of view, this is not acceptable, considering the fact that, you know, there are costs involved in expanding the league. And for that reason, if, well, the sponsor of the Premier League decides to, you know, meet the clubs one way or the other in order to have these issues, so fine. But in the interim, once we haven't heard anything about that, any suggestion to that effect, definitely it will not be acceptable to us, considering the calendar that we are going to operate. It's going to extend or intensify the playing, and therefore, I wouldn't want to extend it even to injuries and so on and so forth. No. I mean, it will involve playing maybe 3 matches in a week, you know, compressing the league, you know, and all these have, you know, implications, considering as well the fact that we have the international calendar to abide by. You know, I believe the 18 club league is a no-no for us. No.
All right, we can end now with some beach soccer news. And the Ghana Beach Soccer League definitely was in Keta over the weekend for week 15. Interesting games at it headlined the Hokpochocho Festival in Anglo. Bank Beach Soccer Championship and the Baltic Division 1 League resumed in unfamiliar but spectacular territories at the weekend. Week 15 action was embraced by locals, general sports fans and tourists alike from afar and near who were in that North State to witness the Hokpochocho Festival. Those in the Keta vicinity were treated to mouth-watering displays of soccer artistry, especially by the Volta-based sides playing in front of their home crowd. Haviji Mighty Warriors briefly pulled clear at the top of the log, beating Islegon Sharks 3-0. Wogbe held their nerves to ensure there was no repeat of the comeback for Dansuman in their 7-goal first-round thriller. Teshi United pipped Layoka 2-1 to move further away from the foot of the log. In Division 1, Nungwa United proved their superb form knew no boundaries as they routed African Angels 6-3, taking another giant step forward in their quest to make it to the top flight of the league. Fans and merrymakers, including MP for Keta, Honorable Richard Kwashiga, and MCE for Keta, Honorable Sylvester Tonyeva, who turned up to celebrate the festival, shared their joy at how far the game had come in Ghana. Both distinguished citizens called for beach soccer to be boosted and played more often in their region. The best was left to the last as reigning double champions and crowd pullers Keta Sunset Sport edged Gulf Powers 3-2 in a classy exhibition game. Beach soccer in Ghana is expected to shoot up in 2015 with a number of domestic and international competitions proposed by the Ghana Beach Soccer Association to the Ghana Football Association. With just 3 weeks left to wrap up the season, the league tables for both divisions makes for interesting reading. All right, so we can quickly find out what's happening then in the English Premier League. Some games on the way, and of course in the Italian Serie A. We start with the English Premier League, and well, Sunderland, a very battered side in this particular league, managing to lead by 1-0. So Stephen Fletcher getting the goal. They're beating Crystal Palace by 1-0. That's a shocking result. It should be good news for Manchester United, who play Crystal Palace with a very shaky defense as they got in that as well. We'll have a look at what's happening in the Italian Serie A. It's Session up against Hellas Verona. And the scoreline is 1-1 between the two sides, seeing how this will happen. Quite interesting results as well in the Italian Serie A over the weekend. The likes of Juventus getting a win after a shock after they lost to Genoa by 1-0. And Roma as well, losing to Napoli. Here, Lazio leading Cagliari by 3-0. Stefano Mori, Miroslav Klose getting a brace, ensuring that they're going up there. So Lazio also doing quite well in it. We'll find out what happens tomorrow in the UEFA Champions League. We'll have a good look at that as Real Madrid play Liverpool and the likes. So we can get into the Spanish La Liga as well. And it's Rayo Vallecano who are losing 1-0 to Eibar. Rather interesting there as well. And Zaragoza also in it in the Segunda B. They actually joined us. So that's about it for the updates. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm George Addo Jr. Israel will join us with some more. You have a good night.
Veteran Ghanaian musician Kojo Antwi was at the weekend honored at the 2014 Legends and Legacy Ball. The annual event, which honors musicians of Ghanaian origin for their contribution towards the growth of the music industry, was heavily patronized, leaving some patrons without seats.
It was a highly anticipated event which lived up to its hype. The packed auditorium, however, meant some patrons were left without seats. But their disappointment was soon to give way when the performances got underway. 10 young Ghanaian musicians performed songs from Kojo's repertoire of over 2 decades.
For someone who can turn my life around.
But they were not the only ones who excited the crowd that night. Famed Ghanaian lawyer, traditional ruler and musician Nana Asante Bidietu also took to the mic to give his rendition of Kojo Antwi's Medofo Pap. South African legendary singer Yvonne Shaka Shaka flew down to Ghana to honor Kojo Antwi on his special night. Some members of Uncle Ibo White's Riverman Productions put up a dance drama using some of Kojo's most popular tunes. But the surprise acts did not end there. There was also Ikea China, a Chinese national in Ghana, who wowed the crowd by performing Kojo Antwi's popular Tom and Jerry song. Having been presented with citations, a medal and a staff, the music maestro himself put up a 2+ hour show during which he honored his wife.
I never took the time. You will always on my mind.
That's it for Showbiz. Now that's it. Before we go, the quick run through our top stories. Government sharply criticized public sector workers on strike over the Tier 2 pension contributions, describing the action as unconscionable. The flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party has been one in 10 slammed government for its handling of the matter. The founder and general overseer of the Christian Action Faith Ministries International is warning Ghana risks an uprising unless growing disenchantment among the youth about the political elite is not managed. Massive holdup of vehicles at Paga after days of Burkina Faso border closure over civil unrest. And victims of domestic violence encouraged to report cases and refrain from settlement by family elders. And that's it. My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.